My friend, I'll be frank with you. Every street corner I turned, I found myself falling in love. Or more precisely, every 5 minutes or so. It was eye candy one after another, a beauty punch to the face. And the worst part? They all looked like they stepped right off the cover of Vogue. There were times when, honestly, only a bib would do. So, if you're watching this with your lady by your side, do this. Put her on the sidelines, put on some headphones, and pretend you're Googling prostate exams. Because what I'm about to show you right now could potentially cause major relationship crises, intense envy, or an immediate sudden urge to learn Russian in just 3 days. But hold on, because Russia isn't just a parade of fatal blondes. Stay until the end, because today I'll show you the real Russia nobody told you about. And I warn you, ice, vodka, blondes, and existential crises are all here. 1. Where's the summer? You know that image we have of Russia? Of people taking ice baths, swimming stark naked in a frozen lake, or smiling cheerfully amidst a raging blizzard? Yes, I used to have that image as well. In fact, before I went there, I thought, man, if it's about 50 or 54 degrees Fahrenheit, that must be their summer. They'll be in tank tops, eating ice cream, having a backyard barbecue with a bear. So, just to be on the safe side, I only packed a light jacket. After all, I'm Brazilian, but I'm also an optimist. Error number 1. As soon as I left the airport, I was hit with a blast of icy wind in the face. At that very moment, my balls shriveled. Poor things. A wind cutting through clothes, soul, and self-esteem. And the first thing that caught my eye were the Russians, heavily bundled up in thick coats, hats, scarves, and knee-length jackets, walking briskly with that clear, "don't talk to me" expression. And there I was, in my little blazer, shivering like a leaf, looking like a lost intern in Game of Thrones. Then came the real culture shock. It's not that Russians don't feel the cold too. And get this, they even protect themselves from it. But hold on, it wasn't all my fault. The internet tricked me. On the internet, there are videos of naked Russians making snow angels, diving into ice holes with a glass of vodka in hand and a smile on their face. That stuff is truly like exotic YouTube wildlife. In real life, the average Russian feels the cold just like you. They just don't complain about it. He just accepts the suffering in silence, with dignity, and the face of someone who will judge you if you sneeze too loudly. By the way, one more detail. A temperature of 50 degrees isn't warm for them. They aren't accustomed to the frigid temperatures. They're accustomed to enduring climatic hardship. It's truly distinct. The truth is that deep down, the Russian people have learned to live in a country where winter lasts 9 months and summer is like a system glitch. So, if you go there thinking you'll wear a tank top in April, you'll end up embarrassed, hypothermic, and full of regret. Choose to go between June and August, with July being the warmest, averaging 68 to 86 degrees Fahrenheit in some southern regions. 2. The express visa? Now sit down for this because this part is surreal. I wanted to explore Russia slowly, live everything intensely, know the country, reflect, get lost in the subways, fall for a blonde if you know what I mean. So I thought, I'll get a 3-year visa. Simple, right? After all, according to the embassy's website, some Americans can get a 3-year visa for Russia. But what they forgot to mention is that this only works if you happen to be some sort of mystical entity with luck from a completely different astral plane. So, what ended up happening to me? I sent documents correctly, followed protocol, everything by the book, and what did I get? Congrats, your visa is approved for 90 days. I thought, well, that's something. 3 months would be enough to explore Moscow, St. Petersburg, take a quick jaunt to Siberia, and maybe lose a digit to the frost. So I sent the application in again with more thorough details, and this time, a 3-week visa was approved. Yes, 21 days. You heard me correctly. It's not that they denied the request. They simply gave me exactly what I put on the form. I wrote that I intended to stay for 21 days, and the Russians thought, 21 days? Excellent. He wants 21, we'll give him 21. Exactly so. Not one more, not one less. I was like, huh? What do you mean? Isn't it like in other countries where you say you'll be there for 10 days and the visa comes back valid for 90? No, Russia is straightforward. Russia is mathematical. You requested 3 weeks, you get exactly 3 weeks. Want to extend it? Reapply. Want to complain? And that's when you finally understand exactly how the country operates. Nothing is by chance, nothing is flexible, there are no clever workarounds. If you don't include a safety margin on the form, you'll certainly regret it later. I was lucky enough to have put down 21 days. If I had only put 1 week, I would have become a lightning tourist, the kind who arrives, snaps a photo in the subway, and then has to rush to the airport, Mission Impossible style, sprinting through the city just like Tom Cruise. So here's a golden lesson from a naive traveler. Always put at least a full month on the form, even if you plan to stay for a shorter time, because if you need to extend, forget about it. Russia has no time for your existential uncertainties. Thirdly, the GPS is glitched. You think you just type the address into Google Maps and that's it, right? That you'll just stroll Moscow's streets peacefully, like walking Paulista or downtown Lisbon? No, in Russia, the GPS is like a psychological game. You open the map and it informs you that you're 4 blocks away from your current location. Then you walk 100 yards and now you're headed in the wrong direction. You turn back, it recalculates, and suddenly you're in a different neighborhood or even another century. You might even find yourself in Chernobyl if you're not careful. At first I just thought, oh, it's probably a bug in my phone. Maybe my signal's just weak. Yeah, sure. But then something clicked. This exact thing also happened to me when I was in Lebanon. And that's when it finally dawned on me. This is definitely on purpose. Yes, in Russia, the GPS signal is intentionally imprecise in various areas, particularly in major cities. Why so? Simple. National security, cyber warfare, geopolitical paranoia. Pick whatever reason you like. The fact is, modern tech with a Soviet soul. They're aware of your location, but they prefer you remain unaware. So if you're going to depend on a map to navigate around there, be psychologically prepared. You're going to walk more than a postman on a partial strike day. And in the end, you do what everyone did before smartphones, ask for directions on the street. Yes, you'll become that mythical creature, a tourist, with a printed map in hand and a perpetually bewildered expression. And here's the thing, Russians may not smile, but they will help you. They'll point you right, even if they look at you like you're dumb. In other words, in Russia, the GPS is just for decoration. The real guide is good, old-fashioned human connection, even if it's accompanied by a heavy accent and a suspicious look. 4. Are Russians cold? Now let me tell you something that truly left me perplexed. The Russians, yes, the men. Oh, and the women too, my friend. They are truly the most misunderstood people in this entire galaxy. Because look, before I headed there, everyone told me the same thing. Be careful, you hear? Russians are cold, don't smile or talk, and don't help. It's like they hate you just for breathing near them. And me? I believed it. I arrived ready to face a frosty people, like a human version of a freezer. But then, on the first day, I got a shock. Want to see? I left the airport, went to exchange money in a kind of weird place, with a sign that looked like it was from the Soviet era. I'm there trying to communicate with the attendant, and suddenly a guy in line turns and says, "You want to exchange money, right?" And before I could answer, the guy was already explaining everything to the attendant in Russian. He translated, negotiated, and even turned to me and said, "She'll help you, relax." I was next in line, but you can go ahead. And he walked away as if he hadn't done anything out of the ordinary. I just stood there pondering, where's that rude Russian fellow? Where's the guy who was supposed to ignore me and curse at me in Cyrillic? Yeah, he never showed up. And there was more. At the metro, my attempt to buy a card failed. The machine errored, and I broke into a cold sweat. A Russian couple came over, saw the look of desperation on my face, and paid for my ticket. Just like that, without asking for anything in return. And it didn't stop there. They went with me on 2 different trains until we reached the station closest to where I was staying. And when I exited the station, another couple, with a baby in their arms, yes, with a baby, personally walked me all the way to my apartment's address, in the freezing cold, at night. And they even shared restaurant recommendations on the way. At this point, I was already thinking, did I accidentally wander into a UN commercial? Of course, it wasn't all sunshine and roses. Were there grumpy, drunk Russians? Yes. Was there random rudeness in the middle of the street? That too. Did I feel like retaliating? Absolutely. But then you realize this is Moscow, a big city, the hustle and bustle, stress, too many people. Go to my home state of Tira and try striking up a conversation with someone in the bread line and see what happens. You'll make a childhood friend. The average Russian is direct, objective, practical, and has no patience for fluff. But don't mistake that for malice. They just don't have time for nonsense. And deep down, when you really need help, they'll help, in their own way. No hugs, no smiles, no pats on the back, but they help. So yes, Russians are cold on the outside, but some have a warm heart. You just need to survive the "I'm going to kill you" facial expression and the lack of vowels in their language. After that, everything gets better. Gentlemen, now is the perfect time to stand up, grab a drink of water, and pray your girlfriend isn't watching this video alongside you, all right? In fact, go ahead and do this. Copy the link and send it to your core group of friends, especially that one guy who always says he'll marry an Eastern European blonde someday, because we're about to talk about them, the beautiful Russian women. But hold on a second, you sly dog. But first, let me tell you something that truly astonished me even more than seeing a Russian smile. 5. Russian cuisine. When you picture Russian food, what immediately springs to mind? Potatoes, vodka, reindeer meat, more vodka, and some stale bread from the Stalin era? Yeah, I used to think the same thing. I was anticipating a fundamental apocalypse survivor's diet. Raw protein, carbohydrates, and an alcoholic beverage to dull the pain. But then, my dear friend, Russia truly took me by surprise. The very first dish I sampled was their renowned stroganoff. And no, it's not our company's stroganoff with mushy rice and wilting shoestring fries. Their stroganoff is truly on a whole different level. Creamy, full-bodied, and tastes like a dish that sat for 7 hours in a pot, lovingly blessed by a Russian grandmother. I ordered it in a fancy restaurant, the kind with an unpronounceable name and Soviet film music playing in the background. The plate was small, yes, but so good I almost applauded at the end. And it doesn't stop there. Russia is the land of soups. Even though I have a motto, soup is not dinner. There was soup of everything, and I tried a few. Red soup, cold soup, soup with a weird name that tasted wonderful. On any street corner, there's a soup that warms you up more than a mother's embrace. Another discovery was the so-called sea buckthorn. Not sure what it is? I wasn't either. It's orange juice made from a small Arctic fruit that appears to have been invented by elves. It's sour, sweet, and quite potent. It's like liquid vitamin C that tastes like, "I'm going to save your immune system and your soul." And then comes one of the biggest surprises. Russians are great at making juices from red berries, fruits I don't even know the name of, fruits that only grow in frozen forests. All natural, none of that radioactive powdered stuff. Now, there's this one bizarre thing, black bread with fish paste. Does it sound like a punishment? It does. Does it look like food from the Middle Ages? Absolutely. But I swear, it's good. You look at it, turn up your nose, take the first bite cautiously, and suddenly you're eating a second one. It tastes like, I don't know what this is, but I want more. And if all that wasn't enough, I uncovered a detail that absolutely crushes any tourist. The portions are minuscule. I ordered one dish, and I literally got half a dish. I thought, did the waiter mistake me for a child? Then I went to another restaurant. Same size. Another one. The same. I guess they don't know my appetite is construction worker and dock worker sized. In Russia, small portions are the norm. You get to eat a variety of delicious foods, and you leave feeling like you've had a true culinary experience, not a food coma. 6. No money, no credit card. You think, oh, I'm going to Russia with all the sanctions, crisis, and economic isolation, so it's probably best to carry cash, right? No cards because they definitely won't function there. Yes and no. Look at the contradiction. Your international card genuinely doesn't work. MasterCard, blocked. Visa, forget about it. Pix, only in Brazil. But then the Russian plot twist arrives. Russia, surprisingly enough, is practically an entirely cashless society. Yes, you did hear that right. You approach a street vendor, one who sells beet juice with bear honey, and he'll give you a disapproving look if you attempt to pay with a banknote. Darling, do you accept cash? Not yet. Tap, please. So, it's a country where your card is useless, yet you absolutely need one to survive. A paradox fit for Dostoevsky himself. So, how did I get around this problem? It was simple. I just opened a Russian bank account. Yes, foreigners are actually allowed to do that. It takes a little time, but it really works. And when it works, my friend, it becomes magic. I paid for absolutely everything with a tap, including subway tickets and the waiter's tip. Oh, and by the way, there's one more thing. Over there, people transfer money using their phone number, like a version of the Brazilian Pix. You walk into a store, pick a product, and say, I only have my phone, and the cashier replies, you can just transfer it to this number. It might seem like something from a movie, but it's really just Russia being Russia. And now for the most bizarre detail of all, Bitcoin. Yes, there are places there that accept Bitcoin as a form of payment. You can't use your regular bank card, but you can pay with a digital currency created by some mysterious guy on the internet. This got me thinking. Russia is like that weird uncle in the family. You don't understand how he survives, but he does. And sometimes, even better than everyone else. So here's a tip. If traveling there, get organized. Open an account, bring local currency, or learn to live like a true local Russian. Without depending on the West, but paying for everything with a QR code. 7. Moscow versus St. Petersburg. When you journey through Russia, it's almost as if you're experiencing two distinct sides of the same nation. And the first of these is indeed Moscow. Moscow is beautiful, it's wealthy, it's very organized, but it's also where I met the rudest people on my journey. And I'm not talking about, oh, the waiter was being rude. I'm talking about people who stare at you with a get out of here kind of look, simply because you asked for information with a foreign accent. At times, you'd swear you accidentally walked into a KGB meeting. They treat you with a coldness worthy of an industrial freezer. And mind you, I'm an introvert. I don't need hugs or affection. But then, at certain moments, even I wondered, man, did I go overboard just by being here? Now, once you head to St. Petersburg, everything shifts. The city is smaller, quieter, and the social vibe is different. People there are more easygoing, they appear more open, and they even treat you with a shy but truly genuine kindness. I discussed this with some Russians, and they confirmed it. Go to the interior. The smaller the city, the friendlier the folks. And that's not exclusively a Russian characteristic, you know. In the US, not everyone is like a New Yorker. In England, not everyone has the dry manner of a Londoner. A capital is a capital. It always comes with stress, rush, and grumpy faces. Moscow is very much like a high-heeled executive who literally has no time to breathe. St. Petersburg is that artsy cousin who listens to jazz and offers you raspberry tea with black bread. In fact, some people even say that St. Petersburg is the Paris of Russia. And you know, on some days, I almost agree. The buildings are beautiful, the architecture breathes art, and the people, when they're not pretending you don't exist, will actually help you. In other words, even though it's the same Russia, Moscow, and St. Petersburg are two different planets. And the difference isn't just visual, it's in the soul of the city. Number 8. Russian women. Gentlemen, pay attention. If your wife is nearby, pause the video, put on some headphones, and pretend you're watching a BBC documentary about agriculture in Kazakhstan, because now we're going to talk about a very delicate, controversial topic with a high risk of divorce: Russian women. You know that friend of yours who met a blonde with icy eyes online, fell head over heels, and then, out of the blue, she vanished with his credit card, his passport, and his faith in humanity? Yeah. Before, I used to be judgmental. I called him delusional, a total suck-up, a complete fool. But then I went to Russia. And I saw them. I saw those blondes. I saw the blue eyes that pierce your very soul. I noticed the long coats, the boots, that cold yet mesmerizing stare. And then, all of a sudden, everything clicked. On the street, in broad daylight, you get it. He didn't fall for a scam. He fell under a spell. The women are just so incredibly beautiful. For goodness sake, it seriously looks like Russia hired an entire army of supermodels to work in pharmacies, bakeries, and even in bank queues. And the worst? They walk around like they don't even know the damage they're causing. That "I don't care" attitude, as if they were a star in a Cannes-awarded European film. You, a dreamy Latino, full of hope in your eyes, just stand there, vulnerable, in danger. Now, combine that with the stereotypes. Russian women are cold. Russian women are calculating. Russian women scam foreigners on the internet. Well, let me tell you something. They don't even need to trick you. You give them everything all by yourself. She says hi in the elevator, and you're already picturing the wedding in Moscow, joint assets, 3 kids, and a Russian passport. And look, I've been around. I went to Poland, Romania, Sweden, all beautiful women. But if I had to put all my chips on the seductive power of a continent, I'd confidently pick Russia. They are truly the most beautiful, unparalleled. And before anyone comments something like, "Oh, you're so superficial, sexist, and objectifying Russian women," just cut it out with that complaining, "you testosterone-deficient man." I'm talking about a profoundly serious socio-cultural and geopolitical phenomenon that directly impacts the emotional sanity of the average man in the Western Hemisphere. You comprehend what I'm speaking of. You feel what I'm conveying. You don't choose to succumb. You simply fall prey to the siren's captivating song. And if you're a woman watching up to this point, you definitely know the power they possess. The difference is, Russian women achieve this with only a glance in silence. Without needing to smile, without needing to say a word. Are they beautiful? Yes. Mysterious? Very. Easy to understand? Never. Dangerous? Only if you slip up, or if you're weak, or if you're human. That's just how it is, my friend. If you enjoyed this icy trip full of surprises, comment "Mother Russia" below, just so I know who the loyal soldiers of this channel are. And hey, don't mess up, okay? There's a video on your screen now that you absolutely won't want to miss. Click on it and continue on this crazy journey with us. Thank you, everyone. See you next time.